All right, welcome back for another deep dive. And today we're going to be taking a look at the LPot community.
Okay.
So this is a community that is all about, helping people escape loneliness.
Right.
And they've got a really vibrant presence online. They've got a podcast, a YouTube channel, a Discord server.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got a lot of really interesting insights into the nature of loneliness and how to overcome it. And we've been looking into some of their material.
Yeah.
And they seem to think that they found like the one thing that really works
Oh,
to
interesting.
combat loneliness. So I'm very curious to dive into that with you today.
Yeah, me too.
What is this one thing that really works?
Well, it's actually maybe not what you would expect.
Okay.
It's not about, finding the perfect partner or surrounding yourself with tons of people.
Okay.
It's about building a strong and healthy relationship with yourself.
Okay, so self-love.
Yes, exactly.
That makes sense, but it's kind of abstract.
Right.
Like, how do you actually go about building a relationship with yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, the LPot community really emphasizes this idea of self-awareness.
Okay.
So really understanding your emotions, your thought patterns, the things that trigger you. And they talk about confronting those feelings head on instead of trying to avoid them.
So instead of just like shoving them in the closet.
Yeah, exactly. Like cleaning out that cluttered closet. It might be messy and uncomfortable at first.
Right.
But ultimately, it creates space for something new and beautiful.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
But it's hard, right? Like, how do you even start to face those emotions, especially, when you're feeling lonely?
Yeah, it can definitely be challenging, but the LPot community recommends some, really practical tools like journaling and meditation as a starting point for that self-reflection. And they even provide specific journaling prompts that can help you kind of uncover those negative thought patterns and then start to challenge them.
So it's about recognizing that inner critic that we all have
Right.
and learning to, talk to ourselves with a little more compassion and kindness.
Exactly. And that's a key part of what they talk about. It's treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer to a close friend.
Yeah, because we're often way harder on ourselves than we would ever be on anyone else.
Absolutely. And that constant negative self-talk, it can really amplify those feelings of loneliness and isolation.
It's like a vicious cycle.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know they also talk about emotional regulation,
Yes.
not just understanding your emotions, but learning to actually manage them effectively.
Absolutely. It's not about suppressing your emotions or pretending they're not there,
Right.
but it's about learning to respond to them in a healthy way.
Okay, so how do they recommend doing that?
Well, they're big proponents of mindfulness practices, so things like learning to observe your emotions without judgment,
Okay.
allowing them to just rise and fall like waves without getting swept away by them. And they also suggest practical things like, deep breathing exercises, guided meditations,
Yeah,
anything that can help to kind of calm your nervous system and create a sense of inner peace,
that makes sense.
especially when you're feeling overwhelmed by those feelings of loneliness.
Yeah, for sure.
And they also highlight the importance of finding healthy coping mechanisms.
Okay.
Instead of turning to things that might temporarily numb the pain, but ultimately aren't good for you.
Right.
So, instead of reaching for that extra glass of wine or, scrolling endlessly through social media,
Yeah.
it's about identifying those activities that truly nourish you and make you feel good.
So doing things that bring you joy, even when you're alone.
Exactly. And that kind of leads us to another really key element of building a strong relationship with yourself, which is pursuing your passions.
I love that because, it's about finding those things that make you feel truly alive, regardless of your relationship status.
Yes.
Like, what excites you? What brings you joy?
Uh-huh.
And, this reminds me of when I discovered my love for urban sketching.
Oh, cool.
And I never really considered myself an artist, but something about capturing the energy of a city through these quick sketches.
Yeah.
It just brings me this incredible sense of peace and presence. And it's something I can do completely on my own.
That's a perfect example, and it really highlights the importance of trying new things, stepping outside of your comfort zone. Maybe exploring different avenues for self-expression, because you never know where you might find that hidden passion that sparks joy.
Right, exactly. Like, you never know what you're going to fall in love with.
And when you're engaged in those activities that you love, you naturally radiate a different energy, a certain vibrancy that can actually attract others who share your interests.
So it's not about, like, forcing social interaction just to avoid being lonely.
Right.
It's about creating a life that's so rich and engaging that Genuine connections just naturally arise.
Yeah, that's a really important point, and that's precisely what the LPot community emphasizes. It's about shifting that focus from escaping loneliness to embracing a fulfilling life.
Right.
And that starts with nurturing that relationship with yourself.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
Yeah.
The self-awareness, the emotional regulation, the pursuing your passions.
Mm-hmm.
It's all interconnected. It's all part of building that strong foundation of self-love.
Exactly. And that's what the LPOT community believes is the key to truly overcoming loneliness.
Okay.
It's learning to love and appreciate yourself, flaws and all.
Because when you're comfortable in your own skin,
Yeah.
when you genuinely enjoy your own company, you approach relationships from a place of strength and authenticity.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that you are whole and complete on your own,
Yeah?
and that any relationships that you choose to cultivate are simply an extension of that wholeness, not a means to fill a void.
I love that perspective.
Yeah,
It's about moving from a place of lack to a place of abundance.
exactly.
And recognizing that you are enough just as you are.
And that's such a powerful message, especially in a world that's constantly telling us that we need to be more,
Yeah.
do more, have more in order to be worthy of love and belonging.
So it's not just about like feeling good.
Right.
It's about like fundamentally changing the way we see ourselves.
It is. It's a shift in perspective, a reclaiming of your own power.
Yeah.
And it's the foundation upon which you can build any other meaningful connection.
This is fascinating. So how does this all translate into practical steps? Like what specific advice does the LPOT community offer?
Well, they have a whole toolbox of strategies, from simple daily rituals to more profound mindset shifts.
Okay.
But we're going to dive into all of that in the next part of our deep dive.
Awesome. I can't wait to hear more after the break.
So we were just talking about how the LPOT community really believes in tackling loneliness by building that strong relationship with yourself.
Right.
And they have some great advice on how to actually put that into practice.
Yeah, let's get into it. Like what are some tangible things people can do?
Well, one of the things they talk about is embracing solitude,
Okay.
not just, enduring it or tolerating it, but actually seeing it as an opportunity for growth and self-discovery.
That's interesting because I feel like there's such a stigma around being alone,
Yeah,
Our culture really equates being alone with being lonely.
absolutely. And the LPOT community is definitely challenging that notion.
Mhm.
They're saying, hey, solitude can be incredibly nourishing if you approach it intentionally.
Okay.
So they suggest things like, planning solo dates.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, engaging in activities you love, really just allowing yourself to be present in the moment without distractions.
So instead of like, scrolling through social media when you're alone or binge watching TV,
Yeah,
you're saying like actively engage with your inner world.
exactly. Take yourself out for a delicious meal,
Yeah.
go to a museum, curl up with a good book,
Hmm.
whatever brings you joy and allows you to connect with yourself on a deeper level.
I love that it's like turning those moments of solitude into opportunities for self-care and personal growth.
Exactly.
And they also talk about creating a space that reflects your personality and brings you comfort.
Right. So that could be anything from, decorating your home with things that inspire you,
Mhm.
creating a cozy reading nook, or, setting up a dedicated space for your hobbies.
Yeah, I can see how having a physical space that feels nurturing and inspiring could really contribute to a sense of well-being.
Absolutely. It's about creating an environment that supports that journey of self-discovery and self-love.
Okay, so speaking of self-love,
Yes,
I know they have a lot to say about challenging negative self-talk,
they do.
which is something that I think we all struggle with.
Oh, for sure. Especially when we're feeling lonely. That inner critic can be so loud and persuasive.
Yeah, totally. So how do they suggest we tackle this negative self-talk?
Well, they have a few different techniques. One of them is actually called thought stopping.
Okay?
And it's literally about interrupting those negative thought patterns as they come up.
Okay.
You can even use a visual cue like snapping your fingers
Oh.
or wearing a rubber band on your wrist and just gently snapping it,
Oh, interesting.
just to kind of bring your attention back to the present moment.
That's a good idea.
And then they also talk about using affirmations,
Okay.
which are those positive statements that can help to reprogram your subconscious mind.
Right.
So instead of focusing on your perceived flaws,
Yeah.
you're consciously choosing to focus on your strengths and your accomplishments.
I remember there was a quote from their material that really stuck with me.
Yeah, what was it?
They said, talk to yourself like you would to your best friend.
Oh, that's so good.
Isn't that great?
Yeah,
It's such a simple but powerful reminder to just be kind and compassionate and supportive of ourselves,
Yeah.
just like we would be to someone we love.
Absolutely. And that's really the essence of cultivating self-compassion, which is so important for building that healthy relationship with yourself.
And another thing they talk about is setting healthy boundaries,
Yes.
both with yourself and with others.
And that's crucial. It's about protecting your energy and prioritizing your well-being.
So this could look like, saying no to commitments that drain you,
Yeah.
limiting time with people who bring you down,
Mm-hmm.
even setting boundaries with yourself around things like, screen time or unhealthy habits.
Exactly. It's all about learning, honor your needs, and prioritize self-care.
And that can be really hard sometimes.
It can, especially if you're used to people-pleasing,
Right.
putting others' needs before your own. But the LPot community emphasizes that setting boundaries is actually an act of self-love.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that you deserve to be treated with respect, both by yourself and by others.
And they also suggest practicing gratitude
Yes.
as a way to kind of shift your focus from what's lacking in your life to what you already have.
Right, because when we're feeling lonely, it's so easy to get caught up in that cycle of negative thinking.
Yeah.
Focusing on, "Oh, I don't have a partner, I don't have close friends, I don't have a bustling social life."
Right.
Gratitude helps to break us free from that scarcity mindset
Okay.
by reminding us of all the good things that are already present in our lives.
So appreciating the simple things.
Yeah, like a sunny day or a delicious meal or a good book, and just recognizing the abundance that already exists.
That makes sense.
And when we cultivate that sense of gratitude, we naturally start to feel more content, more fulfilled, less lonely.
So it sounds like the LPot community is offering a really holistic approach to combating loneliness,
They are.
addressing both, the internal and the external factors that contribute to these feelings.
And they acknowledge that loneliness is a complex issue.
Yeah.
There's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
But they believe that by focusing on building a strong relationship with yourself, you can create a solid foundation for a more connected and fulfilling life.
So while connecting with others is important,
Yeah.
they're saying that the most important connection we can cultivate is the one with ourselves.
Absolutely. And they have some really valuable insights on how to navigate that journey of self-discovery and self-love. But we'll save those for the next part of our deep dive.
Welcome back to our deep dive in the LPot community. We've been talking about their approach to combating loneliness, which, centers around this idea of building a strong relationship with yourself.
Yeah, and what's really refreshing about their approach is that they don't try to sugarcoat loneliness.
Right.
They acknowledge that it can be, really complex and that it can stem from different parts of our lives.
So it's not just about, being physically alone, but also about feeling emotionally disconnected.
Exactly, even when you're surrounded by people.
Yeah, and they really emphasize that there's no shame in feeling lonely.
Right, it's a universal human emotion.
Yeah.
Everyone experiences it at some point.
And it's like they're giving us permission to feel those feelings without judgment,
Yeah, exactly.
which is so important.
It creates a space where people can share their experiences,
Yeah.
connect with others who understand and learn strategies for navigating those emotions.
And one of those strategies that they talk about is challenging that negative self-talk that we often experience when we're feeling lonely.
Absolutely. They encourage people to really pay attention to those negative thought patterns and to consciously replace them with more positive and supportive self-talk.
So instead of beating ourselves up for feeling lonely,
Yeah.
we should be practicing self-compassion and understanding.
Exactly. They offer a lot of practical techniques like reframing those negative thoughts, focusing on our strengths, practicing gratitude.
It's like learning to be our own best friend,
Yeah.
offering ourselves the same kindness and support that we would offer to someone we love.
That's a great way to put it. And it all ties into this idea of self-acceptance.
Okay, so it's not just about, striving to be better,
Right.
but also about embracing who we are right now, flaws and all time.
Exactly. They believe that true self-love starts with accepting ourselves unconditionally, recognizing that those imperfections are part of what makes us unique and beautiful.
It's about shifting from self-judgment to self-acceptance.
Yes. And when we cultivate that self-acceptance, we naturally start to feel more confident and comfortable in our own skin.
Which can make it easier to connect with others authentically.
Absolutely. Without that fear of rejection or judgment holding you back.
It's like a ripple effect.
It is. You learn to love and accept yourself, and you radiate this different energy that draws people to you.
So it's not about forcing connections.
Right.
It's about creating that internal environment that allows for genuine connections to happen naturally.
That's the beauty of their approach, you know?
Yeah.
It all starts with that relationship with yourself.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive
It has.
into the LPot community's approach to combating loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a reminder that, you know, we don't have to suffer in silence.
Right.
There are communities and resources out there
Yeah.
to support us on this journey.
Absolutely. And ultimately, it's about recognizing that we have the power within ourselves
Yeah.
to create a life filled with meaning, purpose, and connection.
So to all our listeners out there who are struggling with loneliness,
Yeah.
just remember that you're not alone.
There's hope, there's help, and there's a community waiting to embrace you.
And remember, the journey starts with you.
It does.
Take that first step towards self-love,
Mm-hmm.
self-acceptance, and self-discovery.
You might be surprised by what you find.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the LPod community.
It was my pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep connecting, and keep nurturing that beautiful relationship with yourself.